Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is CEH, Certified Ethical Hacking Labs, and this is lab number 12. And in this lab, actually, I'll be going over how to collect information using ReconNG, and this is information from your social network sites. And for this, I'll be using Pushpin. Those of you who are not familiar, Pushpin is a Python script which can be used. It'll get information from Twitter and other social network and basically graph it out, and you can get that information out for a particular user, right? So again, those of you who are pretty new to reconnaissance and information gathering, I'll be talking mostly about open source intelligence, that is the OSINT intelligence collection, and this is basically collecting information from your publicly available sources. And this is for your intelligence community, IC, and these are for your overt operations, which is basically mining data from openly available sources, which are public sources, right? And we are not going to do any overt operations, especially when it comes down to your intelligence gathering as a penetration tester, as a security analyst, or as an expert who's trying to use that ethically. All right. So as I said, Pushpin is basically your Python script. And first thing what you got to do is, of course, open up Terminal. And when you launch Terminal, you need to put in the right commands to get to. And now let me show you exactly how you reach to that location itself. All right. So first you open up Kali again. Those of you joining us new, I'm using Kali on a VM, and ReconNG is what we're using. So first you type in ReconNG, RECON-NG, and enter. So with Pushpin, you can get a lot of information about your social profile names, screen names, and so forth, right? So again, ReconNG is written by Tim Toms, and this is part of Black Hill, sponsored by Black Hill. The key modules are Recon, Reporting, Import, Exploitation, and Discovery. And definitely in this one, we're using the Recon module. And first thing, what we always do is create a workspace, right? So you type in workspaces, and then you basically we have already created some workspaces, so we're going to select one which is already created. And in this case, there's a social 27 workspace which you're going to just select. And instead of default, it will now revert to the correct workspace, which is the social 27 workspace, which is already created in lab number lab number 10 and 11. I've been using different workspaces down there too, right? And you can always say list, and it'll list you all the workspaces. You can say workspaces list, and it'll give you the list of workspaces. And I got you introduced to that command earlier, right? So first things first, let's look at schema. So just type in the command show schema, and this basically gives you the schema of your workspace, right? It gives you the profiles, the repositories. It gives you all the different leaks are there. The Pushpin, right? Pushpin is what we are looking for. So Pushpins is the schema is out there, and that you can see that all the different source names, profile name, profile URL, media URL. All that information is what we are trying to get at when you're trying to do some open intelligence and information gathering on a particular user, for that matter, using reconnaissance tools. And in this case, we are using ReconNG, which is, of course, your open source intelligence gathering, and based on overt techniques, and making sure you are doing everything ethically, right? So this is the schema. If you look at it, there's vulnerabilities, ports, net blocks. So it's a nice command to know whenever you want to view your schemas. You can also get street addresses of a person, longitude, latitude, depending upon what information is shared or what information is actually gathered by social networks out there, and which is publicly available. You'll be amazed to see, a lot of people who are very active on Twitter and so forth. Their geo information, their longitude, latitude, their information is stored, and you can kind of trace where these people are and what they are doing. So it's a little creepy when it comes down to that too. And using recon-ng, I'm talking about, right? So now, first command I want you to use is basically database command. I got to type it right first. Sorry, locations. So add locations. So you got to do a latitude and a longitude. So basically, let's get the correct information put in here, and I think so. Let me just, do a step back here and explain to you when it comes down to the pushpin part. So we actually want to do a street address. Let's do that. Let's do enter. We don't have latitude or longitude, so just push enter. It'll do blank for both of them, and street address is what we're looking for, right? So you can type in a location. So let's go and search a location, and then try to add that in, so that you can get to a right place, I would say, right? So let's go to Google, and Iceweasel is our browser in Kali, which we will be using for that. So let me launch Iceweasel, and Iceweasel will basically launch this browser, which is basically default. It's taking a little bit of time. I've not launched it for a while, but again, our goal is to get an address and put an address in there, and then basically use Pushpin and see what all pieces of information we can get or gather using a particular address, right? And in this, we'll try to get an address using Google, as I said, right? So we fired out Google down here. Google is so let's try to do an address. So let's close this up. There's some little bit. I got a network issue going on here, but I'm sure you guys, if you run into it, you know exactly what to do. You guys are familiar with our World Wide Web. So let's type in a location. We're trying to get an address so that we can go in and add that to our recon-ng, and then try to figure out all the different ways of a particular address or search a particular location, right? So since we are doing Facebook in earlier labs, and let's do the Facebook address, and you can get the address from the headquarters address, I would say. So it's basically Menlo Park. That's the address, and so for Facebook, it's Facebook headquarters 1 Hacker Way, right? And Menlo Park, California. So Microsoft is 1 Microsoft Way, just to let you know. And everybody has their own 1 Hacker Way, because the campus is so big. I'm sure they get a little play on to add that street which they want, and use that, because that is basically middle of their whole campus, for that matter, right? But anyhow, so let's add that address in, copy and paste that, and add that street address down here. So then we have a correct street address as part of our database, right? You copy paste that street address. We have Facebook headquarters 1 Hacker Way, Menlo Park, California 94025, right? Looks pretty good. Hit enter. So now we have basically saved something to our locations schema, right? So we saw all the different schemas which were there, and the one schema which we were interested in, the locations schema, right? So now let's go to locations, and let's say show locations, and definitely we just added in a location, right? So it should show that location, and just to keep sure that you tap in an S and says show locations, and the module which it is part of is user defined. Always whenever you're adding something, it marks it, the module which it marks for it is a user defined module, right? All right, so now let's do load, and as we always do, the load command before the run, of course, right? So we do a load command, and then we do a geocode, and we basically type and enter, and it'll basically tell us all the location, the geolocation commands which are available. And in this case, there are two, and there is a reverse geocode and a geocode, right? So they're all associated with the locations schema and in the recon. So let's use the first one. We can copy it, and we can do basically do a load on this command, a load, and then paste that command. And what it'll do is it'll basically change the prompt. Then it's to geocode, not to geocode, reverse geocode, right? And just do a run. So it'll go and do a run on that particular street address which you have filled with when it comes down to that particular schema, right? And if you had some more information, we would have done that. So it took the information, and it basically got what it is giving back is the latitude and the longitude of that particular location, which is pretty sweet, right? So now you know exactly where it is, and then you can use this information to further get other pieces of information from it, right? So now let's do show locations again. And now it's filled up the missing pieces, that is the latitude and the longitude. Once you have run the geo command on it, now it's part of the geo module instead of the user defined module, right? Which is pretty sweet, because now you can do much more than what you want to do. So basically it is added, and if you see the row ID, it is basically added in another row inside, and that the row ID is not the same. So there are two rows in there, and row ID 2 with the same street addresses, and the row ID 2 is where it is added based on your geocode. That is basically your Facebook headquarters, 1 Hacker Way, Menlo Park, California, and then it's got the latitude and longitude associated with it, right? So next thing we're going to do is again search for your location, and see what we get back. Locations, of course, you have to always remember to have that S in it. And so now it's giving me all the different command for locations. So you see that locations and push pins is what we're interested in, right? It does Picasa, Flickr, Instagram, Shodan, Twitter, and so forth, right? So now let's use load Picasa. If you just do load Picasa, you don't even type in the full path, it will load the right thing. Just to let you know, it's a shortcut. So there are two ways to load. One is you copy paste the whole path, and one is the other way, right? So you basically look at the options first. If you're not sure, you type in show options, and it'll tell you that it has two options: radius in capital and source in capital. So let's do again load, and now we gotta basically set all the information right down here. So first let's do show info. So what information do we have for this? So this will give you like a sample kind of option kind of a thing, so you know exactly what you're trying to do. And radius is in kilometers, not in miles, guys, remember that. Just use a conversion table or something if you're not sure. So now let's try to see what a run does on it, because we still have the pieces in there that is filled up the latitude and longitude for Facebook, right? So Picasa, you will run, and it will basically get back certain information to you. So now, since it's limited to this detail, you can do a lot more with it. It's just the matter of time, how much you want to spend on it. So on the Picasa Python script or anything else, especially with the pushpin part of things, right? So another thing, interesting thing to look at here is, let's kind of scroll up and see. We have Picasa, Shodan, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. So we can do load, and let's do Twitter. And in this case, it'll load the right module for Twitter, right? And so Twitter has basically two modules, and let's go back. Back basically gets you to the workspace itself, right? And we can copy paste one of these things, as I said, and we're gonna get the pushpin data for Twitter. So there's a profiles data for Twitter, but we are more interested in the pushpin data for Twitter. And mind you, to use any of these, you have to set up the APIs, right? So load and just copy paste the command path which is the Recon Locations Pushpin Twitter, and there you go. Just hit run, or sorry, type in run and hit enter, and now it's going to go and start collecting the data for Twitter. It says collecting data for an unknown number of tweets. Oh, so Twitter API key is not found. So I have not added in Twitter API keys. So as I said, if you're going to have the right keys in there, if you're going to use any APIs, you got to have the keys, and that's what the setup process is when you're trying to do, right? Another thing is you're going to do reporting on Pushpin also. That's also one thing which you can do. So you do load reporting / Pushpin, and now it's basically changed to Pushpin, right? And if you had the key for Twitter, it would have worked actually, guys. So if I had the key, and I would assume that you would have the key when you're trying to do this. So and I have multiple machines which I've set it up. So just do show options on the reporting Pushpin part. Here you can get all the different options of what basically you can do. You can do long lat, map files, media files, radius, and so forth. So basically radius from the epicenter in kilometers, path and file name for Pushpin media report, and so forth. If you just do show locations, again, this is what we had done before. It does give you the street address which we added in, and then other information associated with it, right? Which is pretty cool when you talk about Pushpin, when you talk about different aspects of Pushpin itself, and how to gather and get that information out. Key thing down here not to forget is you have to set up all the API keys before you start, right? And I'll basically give you that list, how to get to that list, and I will do like a little bit session on that, or add some details or some steps on getting all the different APIs and all their API keys, right? Okay, so this kind of brings us to the end of this lab, a quick overview on how you can use ReconNG and Pushpin. I hope you guys had fun watching the lab as much as I did delivering it, and I will see you in the next lab. All right, thank you for joining.